I woke up before the alarm, like I usually do. Elle always gets up early on her birthday, too excited to sleep, and I wanted to have everything ready before she came running in. I went straight to the kitchen. Her favorite breakfast, banana pancakes with chocolate chips, was already halfway done. I had balloons taped around the entryway and a simple banner that said, "Happy 5th birthday, Elle," in marker. Nothing fancy, but that's never been our style. Lucas, my alpha husband, came in a few minutes later. He looked tired but smiled when he saw the table. "You went all out again," he said, rubbing his eyes. I just nodded and told him to get the candles from the drawer. Elle burst in right on cue, already wearing the paper crown I made for her last night. She threw her arms around me first, then Lucas, then looked straight at the pancakes like they were made of gold. We all sat down together. Felt normal, like a real family. But I noticed something small. Lucas barely touched his food. He kept glancing at his phone, turning its screen down every time he caught me looking. I told myself I was imagining it, that I was just being sensitive. I smiled through it. After breakfast, we gave Elle her gifts. Lucas had picked out a digital sketchpad, and she lit up when she opened it. She turned to me and whispered, "Now I can draw like you." It was one of those moments where everything felt worth it. Where being an Omega, a father, a teacher, it all lined up into something that felt like a real life. I didn't know yet that tonight would be the last time we'd feel like a family. After breakfast, we spent the morning helping Elle figure out her new drawing tablet. She sat between me and Lucas on the couch, testing out the pressure settings and asking 1,000 questions about how to change the colors. I answered most of them. Lucas mostly watched. By afternoon, we set up a small party in the backyard. Just 3 of Elle's friends from the children's center and their parents. I baked a cake. Lucas grilled burgers. It was simple, like always. No decorations rented. No party planner. That's never been who we are. Lucas smiled when he needed to, laughed when someone told a joke. From the outside, he still looked like the confident alpha everyone liked. But I noticed he kept checking the time. And he didn't refill his drink once. That was unlike him. Elle didn't notice any of it. She ran around with her friends, smeared icing on her face, and tried to blow out the candles twice because she wished too slow the first time. I caught Lucas watching her at one point. His expression wasn't cold, just distant, like he was memorizing something before letting it go. I asked him quietly, "You okay?" He blinked like I'd pulled him out of a dream. "Yeah," he said, "just tired. Long week." That didn't explain the way his shoulders stayed stiff even when he laughed, or why he turned away when I went to touch his arm. After everyone left and Elle crashed upstairs from the sugar, I started cleaning up. Lucas offered to help, but it felt mechanical, like his hands were moving while his mind was somewhere else. I thought maybe he was stressed from work. Maybe something had happened at the office. I didn't expect what was coming. But looking back, I think part of me already knew. The house was quiet again. Elle was upstairs asleep, clutching her new sketchpad like it was a stuffed animal. I peeked in before heading back down. Her little body curled toward the wall, mouth open slightly, paint still on her hands. I smiled. She'd had a good day. Back in the kitchen, I started stacking leftover plates and cake trays. Lucas stood at the sink, rinsing cups, silent. We worked side by side, not talking much, but I could feel the weight in the air. Something was off. He moved slower than usual, like he was buying time. "Everything okay?" I asked. Again. He didn't answer right away. Just wiped a plate with the same towel twice before finally setting it down. "Yeah," he said. "Just thinking." I didn't push. As an Omega, you learn to read moods quietly. You sense shifts before words catch up. And this shift, it wasn't temporary. It was settling in like something permanent. We'd had rough patches before, every couple does. But this didn't feel like frustration or burnout. This felt like silence growing roots. Like he was preparing for something and hadn't figured out how to say it yet. I finished wiping down the counter, and when I looked up, he was already gone from the room. I stood there for a moment, hands still damp, wondering when I had started feeling like a guest in my own house. It was almost midnight when I found him sitting in the living room. No TV on, No lights except for the dim floor lamp in the corner. Just Lucas, sitting on the edge of the couch, elbows on his knees, staring at nothing. I didn't say anything at first. I sat across from him, waited. I could feel it coming. He cleared his throat. "We need to talk." I nodded once. "Okay." He didn't look at me when he spoke. "I've been seeing someone." I kept my face still. "How long?" "A few months." He finally looked up. "Her name's Anna. She's an Omega." The words landed without shaking me. I think part of me had already detached before he said them. It wasn't the shock that hurt. It was the quiet certainty in his voice. Like this decision had already been made without me. "I'm going to marry her," he added. He said it like he was reading from a report. Factual. Final. "And Elle?" I asked. He hesitated. "I think we should co-parent. You can stay in the house, maybe. For now. I just think it would be best if we didn't make this messy. Quiet, you know?" He meant discreet. Hidden. Something he could explain away later when he was ready to look clean in public again. I understood that kind of alpha, and I was seeing now that Lucas had become one of them. "You want a quiet divorce?" I said. "Yes. You want me to be quiet?" He nodded. I looked at him. This alpha I had trusted for over 10 years. And I realized I wasn't even angry, just done. "You already left, didn't you?" I said. He didn't answer. So I stood up, walked past him, and said just one thing before heading upstairs. "I won't be quiet." The next morning, Lucas acted like the conversation never happened. He got Elle ready for school, made toast, even joked with her about the drawings she made yesterday. I stood by the coffee machine watching him button her coat. He looked like a textbook alpha father. Steady hands, gentle tone. If I hadn't heard what he told me last night, I wouldn't have suspected a thing. After Elle was dropped off, I waited until the front door closed before speaking. "How long have you wanted out?" I asked. Lucas didn't flinch. He set his keys on the table and leaned against the counter. "A while," he said. "I just didn't know how to say it." "You managed last night," I replied. He nodded like he agreed with me. "It wasn't easy." "It wasn't hard either," I said. He finally looked at me. "What do you want me to say, Ethan?" I crossed my arms. "Did you ever plan to tell Elle? Or were you hoping I'd be the one to explain it?" "She's 5. She won't understand." "That's not an answer." He looked away. "We're both Omegas. Anna and we understand each other differently." It stung, not because I loved him, but because it reduced 10 years of effort to a sentence that made me sound replaceable. "You mean she's new?" I said flatly. "And exciting." He didn't argue. I stayed calm. That's the thing people misunderstand about Omegas like me. We're not weak just because we don't shout. We just calculate before we act. "Do you love her?" I asked. Lucas hesitated. "I think I do." That was all I needed to hear. I turned away and started clearing the sink. Not because I was being polite, because I needed something to do with my hands while I started rearranging my entire life in my head. Last year, around this time, Lucas started coming home later. He said it was work, last-minute meetings, late dinners with clients. I believed him at first. He'd always worked hard. He had the kind of alpha ambition that needed constant motion. But then, one night, he forgot his work laptop. I found it in the hallway, zipped into the wrong case. It was dead when I opened it, and I didn't think much of it. Until a notification lit up on the lock screen. "See you soon," from a number I didn't recognize. He told me later it was an automated calendar reminder. I didn't question it. I wanted to, but Elle had the flu that week and I couldn't afford to split my attention. I remember another time, early spring, he came home with cologne that wasn't his. Something floral. Not strong enough to be perfume, but not his usual scent either. When I mentioned it, he laughed. Said one of his clients gave him a weird air freshener for his car. I told myself it didn't matter. That maybe I was being possessive. We didn't fight about it. We didn't fight at all. That was the real warning sign. For an alpha and omega who had been bonded this long, the silence wasn't peace. It was neglect. Now, looking back, I can see the pattern. He had already left me. long before the words ever came out of his mouth. Lucas came home early that evening. I was folding laundry in the living room while Elle watched a cartoon on her tablet. He waited until she was completely distracted before sitting down across from me. "I want to talk," he said quietly. I didn't look up from the clothes. "You already did," he sighed. "I mean about how we do this. The divorce." I folded one of Elle's shirts and placed it on the pile. "Go on. I think we should keep this between us for now, just until we figure out the legal part. There's no need to involve Elle in something she won't understand." There it was, the start of his narrative. "I'm not going to lie to her," I said. "I'm not asking you to lie," he replied quickly. "Just don't make it ugly. Don't drag this out." "Drag what out, Lucas?" "The consequences." His jaw clenched for a moment, then relaxed. "This doesn't have to be public. Anna has nothing to do with our family. Not officially. There's no reason to involve her name. But she's the reason you want to leave," I said. "That's not nothing." He looked tired. Not guilty, just inconvenienced. Like being found out was making things harder than he planned. "You know how things are. The way people talk. I'm not trying to hurt you. I just think it's best if we both stay civil." Quiet. There it was again, quiet. "You mean silent," I said. He didn't deny it. I nodded slowly. "Elle's not stupid. She knows when something's wrong. I won't let her grow up thinking it's normal for people to cheat and pretend it never happened." Lucas sat back on the couch. "You're overreacting." "No," I said. "I'm just reacting." It happened 2 days later. Elle was sitting on the couch using Lucas's phone to play a drawing game. He always let her borrow it when her tablet needed charging. I was folding towels in the hallway, half listening to the background sounds. Cartoon music, tiny fingers tapping. Then she called out, "Papa, someone named Anna sent Daddy a heart." I froze. When I came around the corner, she was still holding the phone. The screen was lit up. A message preview had popped at the top. "Can't wait to see you tonight. I'll wear the red one kiss mark." Elle turned the phone toward me, giggling. "Is that his friend?" I took the phone gently and told her it was time to get ready for dinner. She skipped off, unaware of what she had shown me. I didn't open the message. I didn't need to. I went into the bedroom, closed the door, and sat on the edge of the bed. The proof was right there. Not hearsay, not a feeling, not suspicion. Real, undeniable evidence. And it had come through our daughter's hands. I stared at the phone in my lap for a long time. Not because I didn't believe it, but because something in me broke. Clean, quiet, final. Like the last stitch snapping on a threadbare shirt. This wasn't just about cheating. This was about what kind of alpha Lucas had become. And what kind of Omega I refused to be. Lucas came home late again. I was in the kitchen, drying a plate when I heard the front door open. Elle was already asleep. I didn't bother greeting him. He walked in, loosened his tie, and said, "Hey." I turned, holding his phone in my hand. I kept it charged. The screen lit up as I unlocked it. He never changed the passcode. He froze when he saw it. "You should be more careful," I said. Elle opened this. His mouth tightened. "You went through my phone?" "No," I said. "Your daughter did. She wanted to play her art game." Then she read the preview message from Anna. The one with the red dress. He didn't say anything. I set the phone down on the counter between us. "You said you wanted a quiet divorce. What you really wanted was to control the story. To leave clean. To move on without consequences." He looked away. "Ethan." "No," I cut in. "You don't get to explain. I don't want your reasons. You cheated. And you were going to lie to your daughter about why everything changed." His voice dropped. "This is between us." "Not anymore," I said. "Elle is part of this. And I won't let her grow up thinking people can walk away without owning what they did." Lucas stepped back slightly, caught off guard by the edge in my voice. He probably expected tears, silence, maybe even a fight. But what he got was something worse for him anyway. Certainty. "I'm filing," I said. "With cause." "You'd really do that?" I looked him in the eye. "I already started." I didn't want to tell anyone at first. I'm not the kind of Omega who likes sharing private matters, especially ones that make me feel exposed. But after what happened with Elle and the phone, I knew I couldn't stay quiet, and I couldn't handle this alone. So I called Jamie. He's a beta who volunteers at the Children's Center. We've worked together for years. Level-headed, smart. I knew he used to work in family law before switching to nonprofit education. If anyone could point me in the right direction, it was him. He met me for coffee after work. I didn't say much, just the basics. Lucas had an affair. He wanted a quiet divorce. I had proof. I wanted custody of Elle. Jamie didn't ask for the details. He just nodded and said, I know someone you can talk to. She's good, discreet, and she won't let anyone steamroll you. The next day, I sat in a small office across from a female alpha attorney named Maya Ortega. She was direct, didn't talk in circles, and looked me straight in the eye the entire time. Do you have evidence of infidelity? She asked. I slid the phone across the table. Messages, dates, names. She scrolled through, expression unchanged. That's enough to file with cause. And it strengthens a custody claim. I want full custody, I said. Are you financially stable enough to support her? Yes, and I already do. She nodded, typed a few notes. Then we'll proceed. Quiet doesn't mean unchallenged. That stuck with me. I left the office with the paperwork in my bag and the first piece of ground under my feet that didn't feel like it could collapse. It started with small things. Elle asked why Lucas didn't stay for dinner anymore. Why he left so early in the morning, even on weekends. First, I told her he was busy with work. She accepted that once, maybe twice. But kids remember patterns, even when they can't name them. That Sunday, we were painting in the kitchen. She was working on a picture of the three of us, her, me, and Lucas, standing under a big yellow sun. But halfway through, she stopped, looked at her drawing, and said, Should I erase Daddy? I froze. My hands were still, the brush hovering over the paper towel. Why would you say that? She shrugged. He's never here anymore, and when he is, he's quiet. I set my brush down and knelt beside her. You don't need to erase anyone, okay? She looked at me. Are you and Daddy mad? We're not mad, I said. But things are changing. Her voice dropped. Is he going to live with someone else? I hesitated. She already knew, even if she didn't understand the details. I didn't want to lie, not even with soft words. He might, I said carefully. But that doesn't change how much we both love you. She nodded slowly, like she was processing it piece by piece. Okay, but I want to live with you. Pulled her into a hug. She didn't cry, neither did I. But later that night, after she was asleep, I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at her drawing on the table. She hadn't erased Lucas, but she'd colored his shirt gray and drawn him a little farther from us than before. She understood more than I ever said out loud. 2 days later, I signed the papers. Maya had everything prepared, clean, organized, factual. The petition for divorce listed infidelity as the cause, backed by digital messages with timestamps, phone logs, and one printed exchange that left no room for doubt. Attached to the custody request was a statement outlining my role as Elle's primary caregiver. It wasn't hard to prove. I'd been the one taking her to school, cooking her meals, helping with her drawings, brushing her hair at night. Maya asked one last time, Are you sure you want to file with cause? Yes, I said. I want it on record. Good, she replied. It shows the court you're not just reacting emotionally. You're holding someone accountable. The papers were submitted that afternoon. She sent Lucas's lawyer a formal notice within the hour. When I got home, Elle was watching her favorite cartoon. I sat beside her and just watched quietly, trying to anchor myself in the moment. My hands were still, my breathing even. This wasn't revenge. I wasn't trying to destroy Lucas, but I was done erasing myself to keep the peace. Later that evening, Lucas called. I didn't answer. I didn't owe him that comfort anymore. Lucas didn't reach out again until the lawyer served him. When he finally responded, it wasn't through me. It was through his attorney. Maya forwarded the email with a simple subject line, "Response to custody filing." I read it twice. Lucas wasn't contesting the divorce. That part he accepted. But in his response, he implied that I was acting emotionally, that I was weaponizing custody to punish him for the breakup. He wrote that I was deeply hurt and possibly unstable due to unprocessed emotions stemming from the loss of the alpha bond. I laughed once, quietly, bitterly. Typical. Instead of admitting fault, he tried to paint me as the irrational Omega. Maya wasn't surprised. It's a tactic. He wants the court to see you as reactive. Stay calm. Stick to your records. Let the facts speak louder than assumptions. He's trying to make me look like I'm still in love with him, I said. She nodded. Yes, because if this looks like heartbreak instead of betrayal, he might get sympathy or shared custody. I wasn't surprised, but I was tired. Later that night, Lucas showed up at the house unannounced. Elle was asleep. I opened the door, stepped outside, and closed it behind me. "You're really doing this?" he asked. "You gave me every reason to." He crossed his arms. "You want to punish me?" "No," I said. "I want to protect her, and I want her to see that consequences matter, even for alphas." He exhaled sharply. "This doesn't have to be a war." "Then stop treating it like one," I said, and went back inside. I locked the door. I didn't tell anyone at the center right away. Work was the one place I could keep everything steady. The kids didn't know anything, and the staff treated me the same. I liked it that way. Routine helped. But things change, and people notice more than you expect. One afternoon after class, Lena, a beta mother whose son had been in my group for 2 years, stayed behind. She waited until the room was empty. "Is everything okay?" she asked gently. "You look stretched thin." I hesitated. Then I gave her the simplest version. "Lucas and I are separating." She didn't ask why. She just said, "I'm sorry you're dealing with that." A few days later, another parent, a quiet alpha named Roy, handed me an envelope. Inside was a gift card for groceries and a note. "From one parent to another. You've helped raise our kids. Let us help a little too." I didn't cry, but I sat in the staff lounge that evening and stared at that note for a long time. It wasn't money that moved me. It was the fact that someone saw me, not as the Omega who got left, but as a father who kept showing up. Jamie checked in more often, too. He brought dinner once a week without asking, and every time I said, "You didn't have to," he replied, "I know. That's why I did." It wasn't loud support. No public speeches or posts online. Just quiet hands offering small things, meals, space, time. And it helped. More than Lucas ever had. The hearing was set for 9 a.m. Maya met me outside the courthouse. She wore a dark gray suit, carried 2 folders, and didn't waste time with small talk. "You ready?" she asked. I nodded. Inside, the courtroom was clean and cold. Lucas was already there, seated beside his lawyer. He didn't look at me when I walked in. He just straightened his tie and stared forward like this was another meeting to get through. The judge, a beta male in his 50s, glanced through our paperwork as we sat down. Maya had submitted everything: proof of the affair, records showing I was Elle's primary caregiver, a statement from her pediatrician, and letters from 2 parents at the center. Lucas's side didn't deny the affair. Instead, they argued for joint custody, claiming Lucas had maintained a close bond with Elle and that no alpha should be denied access to their child. When it was my turn to speak, I kept it simple. "I'm not asking to take Elle away from her father," I said. "I'm asking for stability, for a life that isn't built on pretending nothing happened." The judge looked at me. "And you believe joint custody would harm that stability?" "Yes," I said. "Lucas chose to leave. He's welcome to visit her. But he hasn't been consistent, and Elle's already confused. She doesn't need confusion. She needs clarity." Lucas's lawyer interrupted. "Your Honor, this Omega is clearly still emotionally affected by the separation." I looked directly at the judge. "I am," I said, "but not in the way they mean. I'm not broken, I'm responsible. That's the difference. The room stayed quiet for a few seconds longer than normal, and I held my ground. 2 years ago, we were sitting on the balcony after Elle had gone to bed. It was late summer. Warm air, no wind. Lucas had a drink in his hand, and I had my legs tucked under me, sketchpad in my lap. We hadn't talked about work or bills. We'd just watched the streetlights flick on one by one. Then he said, "I think we should try for another." I looked up. "Another child," he clarified. "Elle's getting older. I don't want her to be alone." I was surprised. Not because I didn't want another, but because it was the first time in a while he had brought up something that felt like a shared future. I asked, "You sure you're ready for 2? He smiled. "I wasn't ready for 1, remember?" I laughed. "True. That night we talked like partners, like Alpha and Omega building something real together. We even joked about names, school schedules, whose genes were responsible for Elle's stubbornness. And I believed him. I believed we were in the same place, committed, steady, imperfect but strong. Now, sitting here in a courtroom with lawyers on both sides, I remembered that night, the softness of it, the lies that hadn't yet taken shape. I wasn't angry about the memory. I just knew it didn't belong to us anymore. Whatever we had then, it was gone now, and I had to protect what was left. Elle. The visit was court-ordered. Lucas had been granted supervised time with Elle, and I agreed because she deserved to make her own impressions. What I didn't know was that he'd bring Anna. I was waiting outside the community center when the coordinator stepped out and said, "There's another adult inside with Lucas." He said it was pre-approved. It wasn't, but I didn't argue. I nodded once and stayed seated. 30 minutes later, Elle came out holding a juice box. Her expression was unreadable. Eyes low, mouth flat. She didn't run up to me like usual, just walked over and climbed into the back seat. When I asked how it went, she shrugged. "Was there someone else there?" I asked gently. She nodded. "A lady." She smelled like flowers and kept touching my hair. I kept my voice calm. "Did you talk to her?" She asked if I liked pink. Then she said she could braid better than you. That last part hit harder than I expected. "And what did you say?" "I told her to stop touching me," Elle said, looking out the window. "She wasn't you." We didn't talk about it again that day. But that night, while she was brushing her teeth, I caught her looking at herself in the mirror with her eyebrows scrunched together. "She's not my mom, right?" she asked. "No," I said. She nodded once. "Good." Then she finished brushing like it was nothing. But it wasn't nothing. It was her way of choosing. Jamie offered before I even asked. "You don't have to figure everything out at once," he said. "Just stay here a few weeks. There's a guest room and Elle can have the office. I'll move my books." I didn't want to impose. I said that twice. But Jamie didn't make it awkward. He just gave me the key and the alarm code. So we moved in. Elle adjusted quickly. Kids do that better than adults. She liked the big kitchen and the backyard with a climbing frame Jamie had inherited from his sister's family. She didn't ask about Lucas. Not once. The first night, I sat on the edge of the guest bed while she colored in a notebook beside me. I watched her legs swing under the blanket. Her socks didn't match. "Do you like it here?" I asked. She nodded. "It's quiet, but not lonely." I smiled. "That's a good kind of quiet." She kept coloring, then said without looking up, "Jamie makes better toast than Daddy." That was all. No bitterness. Just a child calling it like she saw it. I turned out the lights a little later and stood in the hallway, letting myself breathe. The kind of breath you only take when you're no longer holding things together minute by minute. This place wasn't permanent, but it was safe. The first week in Jamie's house was strange. Not uncomfortable, just unfamiliar. Different hallway sounds, different morning light through the windows. Elle didn't seem to mind. She liked packing her own lunch and watching cartoons from a different couch. For me, it was harder. Not because I missed Lucas, I didn't. I missed predictability. Knowing where the cereal was without thinking. Remembering which drawer had the batteries. Having my own space. But we adjusted. I started walking Elle to school instead of driving. It gave us extra minutes together in the morning. She held my hand and talked about her drawings, her classmates, what she wanted to be when she grew up. An art teacher, she said once, looking up at me. Like you. At the center, things stayed the same. I kept teaching, painting, guiding, gently correcting when kids pressed too hard on the brushes. Some of the parents began to check in more subtle things. A warm coffee left on my desk. An extra sandwich in the staff fridge with my name on it. I never asked for help, but it came anyway. At night, Elle drew while I answered emails. I took over laundry and kept the kitchen clean out of habit. Jamie worked late sometimes, but when he was home, he asked how Elle was doing, never once bringing up Lucas unless I did first. There were moments I caught myself thinking, this feels normal, not fixed, not perfect, but normal. And after everything that happened, that was more than enough. He called again. This time I answered, not because I wanted to, but because avoiding him forever wasn't realistic. We still had a custody schedule to maintain. Elle still had a father, whether I liked it or not. His voice was calm, too calm. How's Elle? She's fine, I said. Adjusting well. I saw her last week. She seemed distant. You brought Anna. She didn't like that. There was a pause. Anna wants to get to know her. I'm not interested in what Anna wants, I said. He didn't argue. Not directly. Instead, he shifted. Ethan, we were together for 10 years. You know I'm not a bad person. I know you're a person who made a choice, I said. And I'm dealing with the outcome. You don't have to keep punishing me. This doesn't have to be cold. I almost laughed. You left. You lied. You told me to stay quiet. I'm not punishing you, Lucas. I'm protecting myself and our daughter from more of the same. His tone changed just slightly. Softer. Almost familiar. Do you ever think maybe we just drifted? That maybe we could have worked through this if things had been different? It was calculated. A gentle prod toward doubt. A way to keep a door cracked open. But I wasn't that Omega anymore. I'm not here to patch up what you walked away from, I said. And this isn't about us anymore. It's about Elle. And I'm going to make sure she grows up knowing that walking away has a cost. He didn't reply for several seconds. Okay, he finally said. I get it. I ended the call. And for the first time, I didn't feel shaken afterward. I felt clear. The court date came quietly. No shouting, no surprise witnesses, no scenes like in movies. Just facts, folders, schedules, and silence between opposing tables. Lucas showed up in a navy suit. Anna wasn't with him this time. Elle stayed with Jamie. I didn't want her anywhere near this part. The judge read everything again out loud. A summary of parenting responsibilities. A review of visitation requests. Maya had organized every document with precision. My work hours, Elle's school schedule, even a detailed calendar showing who had picked her up and dropped her off for the past 6 months. Lucas's lawyer argued for joint custody, again. But the judge didn't ask many questions. He already had what he needed. After 30 minutes, the ruling came. Primary custody granted to Ethan Wells. Visitation rights to Lucas Monroe supervised for the next 3 months, then reviewed. No one clapped. No one cried. I just sat there and nodded once. When the judge left the room, Lucas didn't look at me. He signed the agreement papers without a word and walked out, flanked by his attorney. Maya touched my shoulder briefly. It's done. And it was. No celebration. No relief even. Just a steady breath, the first one I'd taken in months without holding something back. Outside the courthouse, the air felt the same. But I didn't. The first scheduled visit under the new agreement was on a Saturday. Lucas picked Elle up from the community center parking lot. I waited in the car with the window down while she climbed into his back seat. She didn't look scared, just quiet. She didn't wave either. The visit was 2 hours. Supervised. Neutral location. No, Anna, Lucas had agreed to that, at least for now. When he brought her back, she got out of the car slowly, backpack in hand. I met her halfway. How was it? I asked. She shrugged. Fine. She didn't say more until we got home. While unpacking her bag, she pulled out a sketchbook Lucas had bought her. Brand new, fancy cover. glitter pens tucked inside the front flap. "He bought this," she said flatly. I looked over. "Do you like it?" "It's okay," she said. Then after a pause, "But he didn't watch me draw. He kept looking at his phone." I didn't say anything. "He smiled a lot," she added, "but not with his eyes." I sat beside her on the floor. "You don't have to tell me anything you don't want to. Okay?" She nodded. "I know." Then she leaned against me, resting her head on my side. No tears. No drama. Just quiet judgment, the kind only a child can give without meaning to. The kind that comes from knowing who shows up and who doesn't. We were at the park. Just the two of us like most days now. Elle was painting by the lake, her knees tucked up on the bench, the watercolor palette balanced beside her. I had brought my sketchbook, but I hadn't touched it. I was just watching her. She dipped her brush in blue, paused, then asked, "Papa, why is it just the two of us?" She didn't look up. She asked it like she was asking about the weather. Calm, straightforward. But I felt the weight behind it. I set my sketchbook down. "It's not just the two of us because something's wrong," I said. "It's just us because that's what's right for now." She furrowed her brows, thinking that over. "But other kids have both." I nodded. "And you had both too, for a while." She looked at me this time. "Did Daddy stop loving us?" "No," I said gently. "But he started loving something else more. And that's not your fault. Or mine." She was quiet again. Then, "So is it going to stay just us forever?" I shook my head. "I don't know. Maybe someone new comes along. But if they do," I looked her in the eyes, "they have to know something very important." She blinked. "What?" "That they're not allowed to make anyone disappear." She held my gaze for a long second. Then she nodded like she understood more than she could say. And she went back to her painting. I sat there in the quiet. And for the first time, it didn't feel like something was missing. Felt complete. We stayed at the lake until the sun started slipping behind the trees. Elle packed up her paints carefully, placing the brushes in the order I'd taught her. She didn't rush. That's something she gets from me. Taking time even when no one's watching. We walked back to the car hand in hand. Her fingers were stained with blue and green, and I didn't bother wiping them yet. She liked seeing the colors on her skin. In the car, she leaned her head against the window. "Can we do this again next week?" "Of course," I said. "Anytime." She nodded. "Just us." "Just us," I said. "Unless you want Jamie to come." She thought for a second. "Maybe next time." We got home, and I warmed up leftovers while she flipped through her new sketchbook. The one Lucas gave her. She hadn't drawn in it yet. She just kept it nearby. I think it reminded her that things change, even if you don't want them to. After dinner, I helped her wash her hands and tucked her into bed. As I turned off the lamp, she asked one more question, soft and tired. "Are we okay?" I sat on the edge of the bed. "We're more than okay," I said. "We're already enough. And if someone ever joins us again, they have to know one thing." She turned toward me. "They don't get to erase what's already here." She smiled a little, then closed her eyes. I stayed for a few more minutes, listening to her breathe. The quiet felt full, not empty. It wasn't the life I planned, but it was real, and it was mine. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss our next video.